If you're interested in becoming a royal retainer, but you'd like to know more of what the job entails, then follow along. My name is Lynn and welcome to my channel. And in no specific order, I'm just going to share with you my experience of being a royal retainer over the years for various royals. To become a retainer for a member of the royalty, before an event, you will probably find a sign-up sheet online. And this is where you can sign up depending on the event. It might be for a 1-hour shift or it might be for a 2-hour shift. And then after you sign up, when you go to the event, say you've signed up for a 1 to 2 p.m. shift, you would show up about a few minutes before 1, so maybe 12:55 p.m., show up, and then you can introduce yourself to the person you will be retaining for, but also speak with the retainer that you will be relieving, because the retainer might have information for you, such as items that are in the bag that you need to make a note of. Some royals are really good about remembering when to eat and what they've got scheduled for that day. Other royals maybe need to be reminded to, here, drink some water, stay hydrated, eat something. So you just have to find out what you need to know from that retainer that you are relieving. And then once you relieve that retainer, usually there is a bag that comes with being a retainer, and so they will hand you that bag. Inside that bag, you might have all sorts of things in there. For example, there might be pen and paper. And with this pen and paper, if anyone comes up to the royal while you are retaining and gives them a gift, they will accept the gift and then pass it on to you, and then it is your responsibility to take out that pen and paper and get the information from the person who is giving the gift. That way, if the royal decides to later on send an official thank you card for that gift, they have that contact information to know who gave the gift and what the gift was. Other items that will probably be in the bag might be the cell phone that belongs to that royal. They will probably also have a bottle of whatever they are drinking. They don't want to be carrying around a bottle, so they will probably have a cup, which you will also be carrying around their cup, and then it is your responsibility to refill that cup as needed. So for example, if they're just drinking water for the day, you'll be holding the cup for them and then refilling the cup with water as needed. If you are walking with the royal, unless you're invited into a conversation started by that royal, otherwise keep a few feet behind the royal and let them walk, and then you are simply following them wherever they go. If they enter into a conversation with someone, make sure you step a few feet back and give them a little bit of privacy. That way you're not part of the conversation, again, unless you are invited by the royal to enter into that conversation. Also, while you are walking around with the royal, if you come up to a door, it is your responsibility to open up the door to allow the royal to walk through, and then you would follow behind the royal. If during the day the royal that you are retaining for needs to use the restroom, then it will probably be your responsibility to hold the crown for them while they enter into the restroom, and then as they exit, then you hand them back the crown and then they will put it back on top of their head. Depending on the event and depending on the royal that you are retaining for might have a parasol, and if the royal might decide to carry their own parasol, or you might be responsible as the retainer for holding the parasol for the royal. If the royal that you are retaining for is fighting that day, it could be heavy fighting, it could be fencing, they might be doing archery that day, or thrown weapons. Whatever the activity is that they are doing while you are retaining for them, then it will probably be your responsibility. This also depends on the royal. Sometimes they want to carry their own sword and their own shield, but other times they will accept the assistance with carrying some of their weapons, especially if they have more than what their hands can carry. Then you at least want to offer assistance to help carry things for them, and then it's up to them to choose whether or not to accept your assistance. But being the retainer, you are their assistant for that hour or those 2 hours, depending on how long the retainer shift is. One of many perks that I enjoy about retaining for royalty is the fact that it is a chance, if you are new to the SCA, or if it's an event that maybe you're not familiar with that region and you don't know a lot of people, then being a retainer is a great way to meet a lot of people, make new friends, to see and be seen, because with being a retainer for the royalty, you will meet members of their staff, you will meet some of their champions, whomever followed them to that event, plus you will also meet staff for that event. For example, there might be scribes that are working on scrolls that day that need their signature. They will have to meet with the scribe at some point to sign all of the scrolls. There will probably be a court herald that needs to speak with them at some point to discuss the matters of that day and what they want done when during court. There will also be, aside from the champions and their royal staff, the staff for the event. For example, you might meet usually there's a royal lunch that is provided, and there is someone who has to provide that lunch, and so they might be setting up. As a retainer, you are welcome. Usually the royal person will invite you to enjoy some of the food from the royal lunch. So maybe check to make sure you're allowed to eat the food before you just start eating the food, but usually that's a perk of being a retainer, is that you get to snack on the food that is provided for the royalty. Another perk to being a retainer is that you have one of the best seats in the house. For example, if you are at a crown tournament where the next prince and princess will be determined, the king and queen have the best seat in the house, and then with you sitting right behind them or right beside them, you get the next best view of the field as the tournament is going on. Or if you are the retainer during court, you get to sit right behind them, or maybe stand right behind them, depending on how much space there is behind the thrones, but you get to see people as they come up to receive their award. Where everyone else is sitting back and they only see the back of the person receiving the award, you get to see their emotions depending on what that award is. If they are elated, they're happy. If they're surprised, if they're in tears because they are just overwhelmed with emotion. And you get to see that, and it's a real special thing to get to share that moment with someone. Especially, there have been times where I've retained during court and I've gotten to see one of my longtime friends being elevated, and just to be able to share that moment with them, where, like I said, if you're anywhere else in court, you're usually behind them and you only get to see their backside, so you might get to see their shoulders slump, or unless they turn around, you may not get to see the full emotion. So that's just one of the many things I enjoy about retaining during court, is getting to see my friends' faces, because being a retainer, usually you have an idea of what's coming up when. Being a retainer during court, one of your responsibilities might be to give a medallion or something to the king or the queen to then present with the scroll that's being presented. So you have an idea as to who, or at least what, is going to be received when. And so then if you know the next item up for business during court is someone becoming a laurel, and then you hear the name called, you can put two and two together, and then you get really excited for your friend, because, well, they're getting a high honor of becoming a master or mistress of their art and science. Especially if you're new to the SCA, you may hear of something called peer fear, which is a fear of anyone maybe with a pointy hat on top. And from my experience, royals are just like anyone else, and many of them I have found to be very friendly, very down to earth, and very easy to retain for. So I would highly recommend being a retainer. Again, it's a great way to meet people and meet new people, see and be seen. You get to do a service, you get one of the best seats in the house, and the royals are just always fun to retain for, in my opinion. There are moments of being a retainer where you will not be welcomed into a room. For example, if the royalty room is really small and they need to change their clothes to get ready for court. They will go into the royalty room, close the door, and then it is your job to stand guard outside the royalty room until the royal exits the royalty room. Or if they have, say, a meeting to attend to, it could be a chivalry meeting, for example. As the retainer, you are not a member of the royalty, nor are you chivalry. Well, you might be chivalry. But if you're not a member of the chivalry and you're not a royal peer, then you would not be allowed into that meeting, and so you would have to stand guard outside the door, outside of that meeting. If you are signing up to be a retainer, then my recommendations would include wearing a pair of very comfortable shoes, because depending on the event, you don't know if you will just simply be sitting behind the thrones for an hour, or they might be up walking for that entire hour. So you want a pair of comfortable shoes, and also I recommend carrying a drink with you. And this drink, a lot of times I'll just put that drink in the royalty bag that I'm carrying along with their drink, and I typically drink Diet Mountain Dew, so there's usually no confusion on whose drink is whose. But just in case you happen to be drinking, say, water, and it happens to be the same bottle as theirs, definitely do something to mark your bottle so you know which is yours and which is not yours. I'm trying to think if there is anything else that I have missed regarding either with the job of being a retainer or the perks to being a retainer. I think I've covered most of, if not all of the bases. If you think I have missed something, please post your comments below. Plus, if you have any questions, please also post them below. And if you have a moment, please click subscribe and ring that bell to be updated when new videos come out, as well as selecting like, select that thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day.